Johnny, come on down. We didn't give him a chance to address the audience at the Filipino Community Hall, so we're going to take a few minutes here. Did you hear that, Johnny? A few minutes?
First of all, I'd like to thank everybody for coming to this another great day in Delano. It's been a very long journey for me, over 30 years to get this far, and this is another huge step in getting my father the recognition that he deserves. And in giving him that recognition, I also want to recognize the others that put their hands in the pot. Gilbert Padilla, Al Rojas, Pete Velasco, Andy Umatan, Ben Gines, and Philip Veracruz, and all the other 1,200 or however many there were workers who went on strike that day in September 8th, 1965. I'm hoping that I will be able to get the names of every single one of them and put them on the wall, maybe Filipino Hall or something, but to get them recognized as well. They deserve to be recognized. I also would like to give a heart full of thanks to Dawn. I call her Dawn. She was Professor Dawn. Knowing that doing the last approval on the book was one of the last things she did. Means a lot. She did, and Gail, my father, great justice with this story. And I want to thank her for everything that she's done for my family, for our community, and for my dad. The fight still goes on. I will soon be, hopefully soon, going to the White House and getting my father recognized on a federal level. And fortunately, there are a couple other people who are trying to do the same. So hopefully with the amount of people that are trying to do it, we will be able to get him recognized federally. So thank you so much.
And Rhonda here will speak for the Mabalon family.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rhonda Ureta Valalos. I am fourth generation Pinay, born and raised in Stockton, California. I am Don's niece and godsister. I am Pablo Mabalon's first great-grandchild born in the United States. And Auntie Dawn would always remind me of that status since she was just second grandchild born in the United States. So I was really glad to have that one thing over her since she always wanted to be first in everything. It is an honor to be here with all of you today representing our Mabalon family. As you know, Dawn was an amazing human being, a daughter, a sister, a wife, Auntie Ninang, a friend, professor, mentor. The list goes on, and as she touched and impacted so many of our lives. Dawn has given us many gifts. Each of us have our own stories, our own memories of the joys and inspiration she contributed to us individually. Journey for Justice, the life of Larry Itliong, is an example of the many gifts she leaves behind that will impact and influence all ages for generations to come. One of the most important gifts that Dawn has left us is she ignited the fire for our need to really understand and appreciate the sacrifices of our ancestors, the importance to understand who we were as Filipinos and as Filipino Americans, the importance to know where we came from, the importance to know who we are and who we are becoming. She has ignited the fire for us to have a voice and to never forget the importance of our people's significant contribution to the United States, to Filipino American history, to American history, and to our society. There will never be another Dawn. But her legacy will continue to thrive, and through each of us as we continue to learn and reclaim our history, to know our own family's stories, and to honor our ancestors' sacrifices and struggles, as their journey is what brought us here today. Thank you.
Okay, Alex will be joining the panel on top. Okay, my name is Herb Delute. I'll be a facilitator here. I'm with the Filipino American Educators Association of California. Also, I'm a retired school administrator. So let me talk about the panel. Panel number one, the farm worker movement and history. Learning from the progress and missteps of the farm labor movement and applying it in the 21st century. The panel will be speaking for 45 minutes. Initially, we'll have each panel members introduce yourself and share a quick, important story about yourself. 1 minute, then we'll start with the questions, okay? So we'll go from my left to right. We'll start with Roger.
On her. Oh.
Okay, there, it's good. Thank you. Put that
We're
down a
good.
bit.
We're live.
I'm Roger Gariano. I'm an FOB, fresh off the boat. I'm old. I hung out with the Manos. I live in Delano. I raised in Delano. My connection to the Manos is I worked in the fields, starting in the 8th grade. Even before that, I used to help my mother tie mines. And then I started 8th grade in '62 at 90 cents an hour, pulling leaves, the sohe, and hanging vines and picking grapes. So that's when I started, when I graduated 8th grade. And so I lived in Delano. Been here all my life, basically. And I like telling the history about the Filipinos in Delano because we ran a grocery store and we serviced all the labor camps. So I knew the life of the Manongs, what they ate, what they did, all the traffic that went there. And I'm glad I got to experience all that besides working in the fields with them. Okay, I'm done.
I'm Alex Fabros. I ended up down here in Delano because I flunked out of school. And my father didn't want me hanging around Salinas having a good time on his dime. I got drafted into the Marine Corps in 1965, and I worked in the fields from December 65 through September 1965. And during that time frame, I swore to myself that if I could ever get out of the fields, I would never, ever return. And I kept that promise to myself. But what Delano did for me, it gave me the energy to move on. I spent 6 years in the United States Marine Corps. I became a linguist. I also got a chance to play James Bond a little bit. I spent 20 years in the Army, became an officer. And after that, I became a professor. And as a professor, I chose to tell the story of Filipinos. And so I became a professor of Asian American Studies at San Francisco State and received a fellowship to get a PhD at Santa Barbara.
My name is Joe.
Push the little button over there. You want to borrow mine?
My name is John Armington. I was born and raised in Delano. My dad was Mariano Armington, the foreman of the Lucas Ranch and one of the foremen that formed with Larry Itliong the strike that began on September 8, 1965. I grew up here and I started picking grapes and pruning grapes and thinning vines and everything we do in vineyards when I was 10 years old, because my dad decided that I needed to learn what work was all about, and I needed to put some money in my pocket rather than ask him for a dollar every day. And then I finished school and went off and finished a bachelor's, a master's, and a law degree. And I realized that where I'd come from and who these people were, the uncles, the manongs, the men that I had grown up around before the strike, during the strike, and afterwards, were some of the most amazing human beings I'd ever met. And so, in ending, I think I decided to live and do my work in memory of them. And like what Alex just said, it's really easy to go to college where it's air conditioning, and outside you remember what it was like to go pruning at 25 and picking grapes at 105 degrees. And this is home. You're all welcome.
My name is Lorraine Egtang, and I was born and raised in Delano, like my partner here. And my father, Platon Agdan, was a 1965 AWOC striker. And I too was a 1965 AWOC striker. When we went out with the family, I learned about my culture, my combined culture. I later went out on strike again in 1973 and volunteered at 40 Acres with the United Farm Workers and was the first manager of Ogmani Village. And I have been supporting the movement, testified for AB 123 in Sacramento, and that's why I'm here.
And lastly, I'm Alex Itliong. I'm the baby of the bunch here, so I don't know why I'm here. But actually, I was 10 years old when the strike happened. I was an immigrant, 5 years old, spent 21 days below deck in a ship crossing the Pacific Ocean because my dad fought in the war and survived the Bataan Death March so that he could have a U.S. citizenship. So I thank God for him. I thank God for the United States. I thank God for my life here. It was rich because I got to know the people on my right. It was also rich because of the impact that what happened here in Delano, the impact that it had on me personally and on our culture. So I hope to share some stories about that.
Okay, thank you. I will be sitting in the front. If you have any questions for the panel as they're talking, I have paper that you may want to pick up and give it to me, so I'll give the questions to the panel if we have time. Okay, for the first question, 2 minutes each. I know it's not a lot of time, but we're very short. The first question is, what inspired you to support the strike or boycott? Okay.
Simple. Working in the fields, we knew we were underpaid. Didn't think much of farm workers at the time, and the only way we could, improve ourselves is to at least fight for it. And it's important that we had to take a stand sometime because they would just run over you, not unless you took a stand and actually did something. And when my Uncle Larry started doing it, then I saw no reason not to support him. We should do it what we had to do.